This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 572 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by EquestrianCollections.com. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is from Dr. Wendy Ying. Dr. Ying is co-host of the Driving Radio Show here on the Horse Radio Network and doctor of veterinary medicine who practices traditional Chinese medicine in her practice, 5 Elements for Animals. She is also an active competitor in the sport of combined driving and also enjoys fox hunting. Today's tip is about your horse going south. Ooh, that doesn't sound good at all. Let's say it's about your horse traveling south. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Equestrian Collections. EquestrianCollections.com has everything for the horse lover, from A to Z. Ariat footwear to Zoc socks, Amigo blankets to Zilco strap goods. They carry an astounding array of name brand products, and they offer unlimited flat fee shipping options if you're the indecisive type. Stop by EquestrianCollections.com for a world of choices delivered right to your door. Now, enjoy today's tip. And please take note of the little practical joke that Glenn plays on Dr. Ying when he starts the segment. It's a hoot.
Well, all right, Wendy, can you put Dr. Ying on the phone?
Okay, hold on. Dr. Ying, telephone. Hello, this is Dr. Ying.
That was pretty good, Wendy. I like that. We have to make a little...
I know, you didn't know I could do sound effects, too.
We have to make a little intro like that with you doing that. That's pretty good. I like that. Well, Dr. Ying... You can tell we're all a little punchy. It's Christmas week. We're ready. We're ready for the holidays.
We're ready.
So what are we talking about?
Okay, so today we're talking about... actually, I've had like 3 or 4 people ask me, you know, they're heading south for the winter, and everybody's pony's shaggy or whatever, and they're like, should I clip or not clip? So that's the big debate, to clip or not clip when you ship in the trailer. So my recommendation is that I don't clip when I get them in the trailer, and I don't put blankets on, you know, if they're hairy, because they always get much hotter in the trailer, you know, once you close it up.
Right.
And also, I don't like them to get chilled. I don't like being sweaty and chilled is much worse than being, you know, a little shaggy and then have to clip when you get to Florida.
So you're saying you don't clip before you put them in the trailer?
No, I clip when I get down to Florida.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
So if you're on the fence of what to do, because right now, I mean, if you were in Lexington right now, you'd want your horses to be shaggy.
Right.
You know, depending on what you're doing.
It's pretty chilly.
If you've already clipped them and they're still in work and you're blanketing, then, of course, you need to blanket accordingly. But you have to remember that in the trailer, when you're driving, it gets really hot in there. You know, even if you have the windows open, it usually gets like 15 degrees hotter than it is on the outside.
Right. Right.
So that's
it depends on your trailer. It depends on your trailer. With our trailer, I think they stay pretty cold in there. But it depends on the trailer.
Do you have a stock trailer?
Yeah, it's more of a stock trailer.
Oh, yeah. If you have a stock trailer, you know what actually I do recommend is to maybe have the plexiglass inserts so the wind isn't blowing directly on their body. So you have some ventilation, but you don't want the wind directly blowing on them because say you're going 70 miles an hour for 8 hours in the trailer. That's a lot of cold wind to be blowing on them.
Right. Yeah,
so ventilation is good, but you don't want them to be like, you know, freezing cold in there. You can imagine if you put your hand outside the window and drove like that the whole time down, you'd be really cold.
Right, right. Exactly.
So then the other thing that I see really commonly in Florida is, like here I'm telling you, okay, don't clip till you get to Florida. However, when you get down to Florida and you do clip, there's especially in the Ocala area, not so much in like the Panhandle or like South Georgia. But when you get down to Ocala and South, there is the horses are really prone to dew poisoning. So they can get horrible sores on their legs, and then their legs start to stalk up. Then the first reaction is that you want to poultice it, but poulticing it just like keeps a wet, moist environment, and that usually just sends off this horrible like scratches episode. So once you get down here and then you clip, it's good to watch out to see if you get any dew poisoning, and if they get any of those scratches, like little crusties on their legs, then you want to treat that right away with either herbal formula, or you can use a Panalog cream. But you don't want to wrap that up. You don't want any like moist heat in there.
Right. That just makes
Have you ever
worse.
seen that, Glenn?
Yeah, it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
It's basically
And
like it's like people who think they have poison ivy, so they'll cover it, and all that does is make it worse. Right.
And it is very similar to poison ivy. It's like it's a drippy, runny swelling. So it's very, very painful. I mean, it can look like they have a broken leg. It's so painful, it can be like non-weight bearing. So that's something, if you think you have just a little bit of scratches when you first get down to Florida, that's something that needs to be treated immediately.
And you said that's worse in the Ocala area than it is where you are down in further south?
No, it's pretty bad down here, too. It's just, we have, at least for driving, our driving shows are mostly in the Ocala area.
Right.
So, you'll see this. I'm sure you see it in Wellington, too. I just don't work down there, so I'm not as familiar with it.
Makes sense.
But I think it's from Ocala south. It's because it's an organism in the soil.
Right. Okay.
So if you see any of that starting off, that's like you need to treat that immediately. And the problem is that a lot of people come down for the shows. It starts like the Wednesday of the show, and by Friday they can't walk.
Ugh. That's awful.
So that's bad.
So not only does Florida have big bugs, it has terrible microorganisms too.
Yeah, but that's like the nature of the game. This is the good and the bad. I'm willing to put up with a little dew poisoning for 75 degrees and sunny.
I'm sorry. When you used to go down to visit my grandmother in Florida, she used to live there, and I spent a summer down there. I have never seen bugs as big as you'll find in Florida. Now, she lived on the coast over on the Gulf side, and just those green pimento things can get huge.
They're giant. Well, no, that's another thing you have to watch out about in Florida. There are fire ants in the soil. And the fire ants usually don't crawl on the horses because of once they're clipped for showing, they can bite the horses, and they can bite your dog. And they also, especially someone like me that wears flip-flops a lot, I usually am like the canary in the coal mine when it comes to fire ants because they get on my toes and bite me.
Oh. Okay, you're making Florida sound really good, Wendy.
Well, it is great, but there's just some dangers.
I'm sure the tourist board would be happy for your endorsement at this point.
Yeah, there's also snakes and spiders.
Yes. So now, what about weight? Or supplementing? Do you tend to change what you're supplementing a horse when you head to Florida, or do you do anything as far as weight is concerned?
Well, I like them to be real chubby when they come down to Florida because, especially most people that keep their horses out on grass come down to Florida, and then the grass is not as nutritious as it is in somewhere, say, like New England or Kentucky. So then you have to switch to hay, and depending on what kind of hay you're feeding, that can maybe your horse is used to eating 12 hours of Kentucky bluegrass, and now they're eating, coastal hay or Tennessee hay. So that does affect their nutrition. So I like them to come in looking a little chubby so they don't get too skinny when they come down here. They're doing a lot more work because you're down here showing, and it's a kind of aggressive show schedule if you come for the winter. And it's so hot down here that it's good to put them on electrolytes throughout the show season.
Now, do you keep...
Whereas I don't normally give electrolytes at home.
That was my question.
Oh, was that what you were going to ask me?
Yep. I was going to ask
I don't feed electrolytes every day at home.
Okay.
Yeah. sometimes if it's really cold and I always heat my big water trough and I heat my buckets.
Okay.
If I don't have access to that, like if their water is gonna get cold overnight and maybe freeze, then that's the time when I would give electrolytes, because I want to make sure they drink as much as possible then I would bring them warm water in the morning, and I want them to drink as much as possible when they do have access to that.
I know there's a lot of people that do electrolytes year round, and I didn't know if does that hurt them if you do that? Does it hurt them in any way?
The only thing that it could hurt is that sometimes it makes them pee more often. Mm-hmm. So it can be hard on the kidneys. Like on an older horse, it can be very hard on their kidneys.
And it can be hard on the horse husbands who have to clean the stalls. Just saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of extra pee.
All right, I don't recommend that. It's not horse husband approved.
No, it's not horse husband approved. But it is good to do that down here, especially since we have so many non-sweaters in Florida, and it is a lot hotter than they're used to. I mean, if you come from the Northeast down to Wellington, say, for the whole season, that's like summertime for them.
Right.
You know, so they're sweating a lot more, and they need the electrolytes then.
I have what might seem like a stupid question, but if you move a horse down there, it's already developed its winter coat. Will it tend to lose it over the next couple of months because of the climate change, or does it still wait for spring to want to lose it?
Oh, you mean if they're shaggy and you go down and do a clip?
Yeah, and you don't clip. Would they?
Yeah, if you don't clip, I think that what I've seen is that some of them do start to shed because the days are longer.
Okay.
But you'd have to come from like northern Maine to Miami, really, to see a difference there. Okay. But you really, if you're coming from, even if you're coming from Lexington, and you're coming down here now, you'd have to clip. You couldn't work them. It's too hot.
Yeah.
They'll be sweaty and dirty.
Well, that's nice to hear.
And you wouldn't come all the way down here to have a dirty, sweaty horse.
And it's so nice to hear somebody's warm right now, and everybody else is chilly.
Is it cold up there?
It actually got into high 30s today, so it wasn't too bad.
Oh my God!
Poor Wendy. I'm glad.
Don't scare me, or I won't come back.
You're in the right place, Wendy. You're in the right place. Well, was there anything else about when moving your horse south?
Oh yeah, there is something else. Mosquito season is year-round here in Florida, and now with the new West Nile vaccines, you can go one whole year with immunity, but it's always good to check, like, when your date is, because, say you vaccinate in November or whatever, and then you come to Florida and you think, oh, well, I'll just get them when I do the shots in the spring. Well, you might go for a few months when your horse is susceptible to West Nile, Eastern, or Western encephalitis. And we actually do see that a lot in Florida. So it's always good to have your shots updated before you come. And you should do that like at least a week or two before you ship, because shipping's stressful on the immune system. So to get the best immune response out of your vaccines, it's good to vaccinate them before they're under stress.
Okay.
Yep. So I would say I would vaccinate for flu and rhino, because they're going to be exposed to a lot of horses that they don't know. Is like, going to kindergarten for little kids. I always hate that time of year because I'm not exposed to a lot of kids. So when I get around little kids just starting kindergarten, I always get the flu.
Right.
So you always want to vaccinate your horses for flu and rhino, and make sure they have a rabies, they're sure they're up to date on rabies, and then make sure you cover all the mosquito diseases, which are Eastern, Western, and West Nile.
Well, there you go. I think that just about covers everything you can imagine when you're going to be traveling south for the winter, except maybe don't forget to pack the suntan oil. To listen to all of Wendy's tips, just go to horsetipdaily.com and go to the experts drop-down menu on the left. You can also go to her website, 5elementsforanimals.com. Use the digits, don't spell it out. 5elementsforanimals.com. If you just can't get enough of Wendy and Glenn, you can listen to them every week on the Driving Radio Show. Just go to drivingradioshow.com. And don't forget to support our sponsors on Horse Tip Daily because they really do make these podcasts possible. Today's sponsor has been EquestrianCollections.com. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like us to cover on the show. You can subscribe to all of the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse! The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.